Hello, my name is David Stout, and I am a collaboration developer evangelist with Cisco DevNet. Welcome to this DevNet Zone workshop session covering Spark APIs. During this 30 to 45 minute session, we'll conduct a very brief review of Cisco Spark APIs and what you can do with them, as well as show you how easy it is to integrate Spark with various third-party APIs that are exposed through third-party integration services out there on the web, including If This Then That and Zapier. If you are totally new to REST and then the Spark APIs, you might find these other sessions available from DevNet interesting and give you some background before proceeding with this session, including Coding 101, which will take you through the bare basics of REST APIs. Coding 102, the version using Spark. This will take you to the next step, talk about JSON, HTTP operations using the Spark API as an example. And then if you get a chance to go to learninglabs.cisco.com, we have some interactive tutorial labs available there covering some additional Spark API topics that will be of interest. However, don't fear if you have not been through these previous sessions. You'll have no problem following along here as we'll describe everything in detail, answer your questions, and take you carefully through the hands-on sections. So just very briefly, Cisco Spark has, of course, APIs that allow third-party applications, including, as we'll see, some cloud-based API aggregation and integration services to build really cool workflow applications that combine collaboration, notifications, messages, images with applications and automation. So that programs can share communication and information with users, and users can interact with, control, and provide data to back-end applications as if they were users themselves. The Cisco Spark APIs currently cover most of the operations that we associate with instant messaging and the persistent chat features of Spark. Additional SDKs providing voice and video services in iOS and browser applications are coming soon. But for now, the focus is definitely on instant message, persistent chat rooms, interactive bots, and so forth. Developer.ciscospark.com is definitely the clearinghouse for information about Cisco Spark APIs. And you can see that it's possible to do most of the operations that you can do in the Spark client, including creating rooms, adding users, sending messages, attaching files. These are all things that can be done in a fairly straightforward manner using the Spark REST-based APIs. In this session today, we are going to use the If This Then That service and the Zapier integration service to hook up a Twitter search feed to a Spark room so that when ever a new Twitter tweet comes through that matches a particular search criteria, the IFTTT or Zapier service will take the contents of that and post it into a Spark room that we designate. In this way, you can use a single client, Cisco Spark, to keep an eye on another back-end service using what are some really easy-to-use integration building tools from IFTTT and Zapier. If you haven't taken a look at some of these integration services, API aggregators, if you will, a great example of this is If This Then That, which is a service that makes it just dead simple to integrate all kinds of different capabilities, including services, APIs, applications that are out there on the cloud, on the web, and expose APIs, as well as additional things like IoT devices, the sensors on your smartphone, enterprise applications, etc. IFTTT as well as Zapier provide just hundreds of these types of channels or integrations with third-party APIs and other automatable bits. And Cisco has worked directly with these vendors to integrate Cisco Spark as well as one of the channels that can be used to create these pieces of automation. IFTTT is free to use if you are just putting around with some sample applications. If you're going to use this on any kind of scale, there are charges that accrue after a certain number of iterations of the application. But it's free to sign up, free to create what they call recipes. And we'll see here in a second just how easy it is to create a sample application using these tools. So what I have done here is gone to twitter.com. There's a particular hashtag search, election 2016, that I think will be generating enough traffic that we can capture some of the firehose stream of tweets coming out there. And we're going to use the IFTTT service to essentially trigger a script that will take the contents of some of the fields coming from the Twitter API and push those into a new Spark room that we create over here. So I would encourage you to follow along as I work up this little sample application script. Feel free to create a free account with IFTTT. You will, of course, need a Cisco Spark account and either use the web client or install a native client on your device. But the first step that we need to do is go ahead and create a target room, a Spark room, where we want these tweets to be sent. We are going to use the Spark interactive documentation at developer.ciscospark.com to do this for a couple of reasons. But one, because it'll give you a little introduction to what is available with these interactive docs. In this case, what we want to do is go to the rooms reference, and we want to create a room. So we're going to use the post variant of this Spark REST API. If you are logged into the Spark developer site, you should see your little logged in icon up here. The test mode button will be active, and you can go ahead and turn that on. What this does is turn the Spark developer documentation that normally looks like this into an interactive tool that uses the browser's JavaScript capabilities to actually make the Spark API call to Cisco Spark in the cloud. Based on your login and the fact that we want to create a room, it automatically knows which REST resource URL to use, automatically fills in your authorization token, and really all we need to do to create the room is specify a title. So we'll call this one Spark Workshop. We can now click on the Run button right in the browser. And if we've done everything correctly, we should see that we're getting an HTTP 200 success response back, as well as some details about the new room that was just created, including confirmation of the title, when it was created, and of special importance is this unique ID. So this is a very long string of numbers and letters that uniquely identifies this particular Spark room across the entire Spark service. We're going to use that ID a little bit later. In the next step, we can flip over to IFTTT, and just to show you, the GSX Spark Workshop room has been created in my Spark client as I made that API call. But we can go ahead and create a new recipe. The scripts that we're going to talk about for IFTTT and Zapier typically kicked off by what's called a trigger. For IFTTT, essentially we want to say that when this happens, and we're going to use the Twitter API service, that we want to do something as a response or a result. For the Twitter API, there are a number of different conditions or things that can happen on Twitter that can kick off one of these scripts. But in this case, we want the new tweet from search trigger. This should periodically, about every 15 minutes, pull the Twitter API for a search term matching what we put in here and return some results. So it's as simple as specifying the hashtag search that we want to use and clicking on Create Twitter. And then as the second step in building this recipe, we click on the that link that tells the service what we want to happen when a new tweet is found. So let's narrow this down to Cisco Spark. And what we will be prompted to do here is connect to the Cisco Spark channel. So this is where it will ask us to log in and give the IFTTT service particular access rights to use our account credentials on our behalf to essentially post a message into a room, as we'll see here in a second. So we will accept that authorization request, click on Done, and we should be ready to go to the next step. So when the Twitter hashtag search is conducted and new tweets match, the action that we want to take can be one of these Spark APIs. In this case, what we want to do is post a message to a particular Spark room. So we'll click on that option. And what happens is in the background is the IFTTT service uses our credentials that we gave it previously and uses the Spark API to, in this case, get a listing of all of the rooms that are available to me. So in this case, I'm going to click the new room that we just created, GSX Spark Workshop. And then we get an opportunity to do a little bit of formatting with the message. These are special fields that are available that you can put into a template that will format the message. And if we click on one, these are called ingredients. We can get the username of the Twitter user. We can get the actual text of their status. And a link to the tweet itself in case we want to open it up in the browser. So you can go ahead and modify the template as long as you don't mess with these curly braces here. But if we want to change that up to the way that we want it to look, we can click on Create Action. And that really should be the last step that we need to do to create this script. So what will happen is IFTTT will poll Twitter periodically for new matching tweets, and then it's going to post the formatted results to the Spark room that we designated earlier, and that's it. Let's create the recipe. So here we can see that the IFTTT recipe is complete and ready to go. As I mentioned previously, the service checks about every 15 minutes for new tweets, but we can go ahead and click this Check Now button to kick off kind of a manual request or run of this script. So if we go over here to the Spark client, we can see that a bunch of what looks like Twitter contents are coming through here. So it does look like it's working. We have the Twitter user, the actual text of the tweet that's being sent, and then the link to the tweet itself. So if we click on that, it opens the full twitter.com experience in the browser. So pretty cool. That was really easy, I think, to create this kind of integration. And what we'll do here next is use the Zapier service to do essentially the same thing. We're going to look for the same Twitter search. We're going to post in the same room. But we'll see that Zapier gives us a few extra options that are kind of interesting and perhaps more flexible. I am going to go ahead and go back to IFTTT and turn off this recipe for now so that we don't get two sets of tweets fire hosing into our Spark room. So Zapier.com, again, you can create an account that's free to use on a limited basis. The scripts on this service are called zaps. So in this case, we want to make a new zap. Looks like it's asking us for a trigger. So we can go ahead and pick Twitter for that. There are, again, a similar collection of Twitter-based triggers that we can launch this script on. In this case, we want to, it's called a search mention. So I've previously authenticated my Twitter account with the Zapier service. Otherwise, it would prompt me for those credentials here. But if you have multiple Twitter accounts in the service, you can go ahead and select one and test it. In this case, I'm using my personal account. So again, similar to IFTT, we can put in the search term that we are looking for and continue. And at this point, Zapier offers to do a little test run. So it'll go and fetch, see if there's some new tweets available, which it looks like there are. You can actually go and view the raw data that comes back from the Twitter API based on that search result. And if we continue on, the action that we want to take based on the Twitter trigger is going to be, again, Cisco Spark. There are, again, a number of Spark operations that you can perform in this script. In this case, again, we want to post a message. So let's continue there. I have already configured my Cisco Spark account with Zapier and given it permission to access the API. So we can just continue with those credentials. Similar to IFTTT, you can click this down arrow box to get a long list of the available rooms to you. In this case, I'm lucky in that the latest room that I just created is at the top of the list. But if you're like me, you have just hundreds and hundreds of rooms, and it may be a little bit difficult to find the actual room that you're looking for. In this case, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom and tell it that you want to use a custom value. And what this allows you to do is use the unique room ID that we saw earlier here from the Spark developer documentation when we created the room as the selector for the room. So I'm going to copy and paste that from the Spark documentation results, paste that into the custom room ID field, and in the text area, this is the actual template or format similar to IFTTT that we want to use here. So in this case, I'm going to put some brackets and then take a look at the fields available from Twitter. If you'll notice, there are just dozens and dozens of fields available, so a lot more flexibility in the kinds of data you can pull together and manipulate with Zapier versus IFTTT. But in this case, I just want the username field, a colon, and then maybe the text of their status, of their tweet. And on the next line, we can go ahead and put the actual URL, similar to what we did before, that points to the content of their status update. So let's continue. Nice feature. Again, it gives us a little sample based on the previous test search of what the actual text will look like when it's formatted and sent on. So that looks good. We can create and continue. And at this point, again, we're done. We can finish that. Give this a name. And turn it on. Similar to IFTTT, the Zapier service will poll about every 15 minutes to the Twitter API to see if there are any new matching tweets, and then execute the script based on the search results. And again, similarly, we can see that this particular Zap is on and ready to go. And we can kick off a manual run to see if it's working right away. So I'm going to just put a little break in here so we can see where the tweets from this service begin. Click on the run. Gives us a little live kind of log interaction. It says it found 3 tweets and successfully posted those messages to Spark. If we go and look in the Spark room, indeed, we got 3 new tweets, and that looks like the format that we used. Some brackets with the username, the text of the status update, and then the URL that we can click to open up the full experience. So what I would like to demonstrate next is kind of an extension of this example here, and turn it a little bit on its head, and show you as well a third integration platform as a service vendor called Built.io. Built.io is similar to IFTTT and Zapier in that it's a cloud service that integrates third-party APIs, including Cisco Spark, and allows you to create customized scripts and logic that are kicked off based on triggers and use other APIs to get things done. But in my opinion, this service is far more flexible and really creates allows you to create very complex logic, including loops, conditions, and even custom code embedded into steps based on Node.js JavaScript. So it comes with an additional learning curve. I won't try to walk anyone through building something like this during this session, but I will just quickly go over this little Built.io script that essentially monitors a particular Spark room and then uses the Cisco Tropo cloud API service to send an SMS to my phone, so that any tweets that come through in this GSX Spark workshop room, whether they are generated manually by myself or whether they're coming through as the result of posts from another integration service, these will get essentially relayed or mirrored to my mobile phone SMS account. The first step towards creating this extra piece of integration is to go over to tropo.com and create just a real quick and short relay script. We do have learning labs and additional sessions that cover the tropo.com API and capabilities. So I would encourage you to check out those sessions and learning labs. But essentially this just very simple, very small script looks for a particular number to dial that comes in from built.io, and via SMS relays the message variable to tropo.com, which will then deliver an SMS to my mobile account. Creating this script creates or allows you to select actually a custom phone number that gets assigned to it. This can be anywhere in the U.S. or I think over 100 countries worldwide, but you can select a number that's local to wherever your clientele is based. Essentially, all the SMS messages originating from Tropo will look like they're coming from this particular phone number. As well, there is a special URL that belongs to this script that can be kicked off using an HTTP GET request. And this is how built.io is able to trigger the tropo.com script. Once the tropo script is in place, we can simply go to built.io and create a new, what they call a flow. This flow will have a trigger step, and this is a drag and drop canvas where you can put multiple steps and connect them using loops and other forms of logic. But essentially we are going to trigger based on a particular Spark account and room that we have specified earlier. So if we go to the globals area, we can see that this test trigger is based on the new message event, and we're going to put the room ID that belongs to this new room in here. And if we go to the second step, the tropo step, and edit that configuration, the connection that we want to use is the SMS relay connection that I configured earlier. The phone number that I want to send the SMS messages to is just manually entered. And again, I get to use some variable fields to format the content the way I want it. So in this case, I'm going to label these relayed messages with a little Spark label, and then use the trigger.text variable that's available to us in this environment to grab the text parameter that's coming in from the Spark API and send that out via SMS to my mobile device. That's really all that we're going to do in this built.io flow. And so we can connect the tropo step with the end step that belongs here. Go ahead and save that off. And similar to the other services, we can kick off a test run, but that's not going to make much sense because we don't have any raw data coming from the Spark trigger. So what we can do to hopefully see this work is go over to the Spark room that we've created, type in a test message, and if you flip over to the built.io flow, you can actually see graphically that the script gets kicked off, and you can see each step as it passes through the sequence, where green lines are success. And if I look over at my Google Hangouts here, I can see that I did get a successful SMS message from the service, so that's great. So putting it all together, we can go back over to Zapier and re-enable our script that queries Twitter and sends tweets to our Spark room. And what we should see here is that we get a series of tweets that are posted to the Spark room by Zapier, and then built.io kicks off to relay those tweets via SMS to my mobile SMS account. So let's go ahead and kick off a manual run of the Zap right here. Looks like things are going. We can see again that the built.io flow is churning through individual tweets step by step. We can see the tweets coming through the Spark room, and those are also being relayed by SMS to my mobile account. So everything looks like it's working well. That's really all that we're going to do in this built.io flow. And so we can connect the tropo step with the end step that belongs here. Go ahead and save that off. And similar to the other services, we can kick off a test run, but that's not going to make much sense because we don't have any raw data coming from the Spark trigger. So what we can do to hopefully see this work is go over to the Spark room that we've created, type in a test message, and if you flip over to the build.io flow, you can actually see graphically that the script gets kicked off, and you can see each step as it passes through the sequence, where green lines are success. And if I look over at my Google Hangouts here, I can see that I did get a successful SMS message from the service, so that's great. So putting it all together, we can go back over to Zapier and re-enable our script that queries Twitter and sends tweets to our Spark room. And what we should see here is that we get a series of tweets that are posted to the Spark room by Zapier, and then build.io kicks off to relay those tweets via SMS to my mobile SMS account. So let's go ahead and kick off a manual run of the Zap right here. Looks like things are going. We can see again that the build.io flow is churning through individual tweets step by step. We can see the tweets coming through the Spark room, and those are also being relayed by SMS to my mobile account. So everything looks like it's working well. So that's essentially it. This is, of course, just scratching the surface of what you can do with these integration services in the cloud with the Spark API and its capabilities. For example, I have somewhat more complex build.io script here that essentially populates a new room based on a Google spreadsheet. Which contains the email addresses and phone numbers of essentially an unlimited number of target users. So this script will pull down all the user information from Google spreadsheets, and then in this loop operation, use some custom built.io JavaScript code to parse that Google spreadsheet information. Use it to add participants to a Spark room using this Spark API step, and then send an SMS message to each user letting them know that they have been successfully added to the room. And then a small delay is added to make sure that all happens not too quickly and overwhelms the Spark service. So, this example uses, Spark. It uses Google Spreadsheets, uses Tropo, 3 APIs to do something that I think is pretty useful. I've used this to populate rooms with several people before. But you can see where integrating with additional APIs and services could become really interesting and provide some powerful and unique use cases. So that's it. I hope you continue your journey and exploring what you can do with Spark APIs and custom applications and integrations. If you ever do get stuck and need some help, the Spark team is ready and waiting to provide support essentially 24/7. So you can just go to the Spark developer pages, to the support tab, and join a Spark room, of course, where you can interact with those guys in real time to ask questions and get live support. You can also send an email to devsupport@ciscospark.com if you need more significant support and maybe have some confidential information that you need to share with them. So that's it. Thanks for watching.